sustain just by the support fight, I thought Miracle won hard in draft number 1. Let's see, we're gonna soon step into game number 2, and we're gonna see the map bend soon too. But let's see if Raven can step up their draft and go towards. I like teams that really focuses it on supports a little more. I think supports really make a big difference right now in this meta. And it is going to be Battlefield of Eternity happening, and Raven, they took Vala last time with the auto attack. Maybe it's time for the Q Vala to come up, and of course, on this map, you cannot forget Martheo will be the one. It's gonna be highly likely banned or picked too, after a little nerf on this patch.
Yeah, I mean, Malthael is still extremely powerful all around, and definitely on this map. And there has been a slight hotfix, a balance patch to Malthael on this recent patch, and today is the first day that we're playing on it, so would you be kind enough to take us through the changes to Malthael?
Well, it's got some heroic nerf, of course. That will be the biggest one. The cooldown from 82 seconds to 100 seconds, which I think is a very significant one. That means for a longer time, he will lack the sustain when he does not have his heroic with the Tormented Souls.
I'll forget it.
There's the ban. Never mind. It's BOE, so there's the insta-ban. That's what happens in every single hero league, too.
Yeah, that's what happens if you prepare for the cast, G-Clef. You memorized everything about Malthael, and it's a first ban.
Yeah, and Miracle seems to be banning Genji both of the times today.
So what's the first pick going to be for Raven? Traditionally, Raven has been one of those teams that has never really focused too much on securing one OP hero at the very start of the draft, as seen in their first picking Abathur on Cursed Allah, right? It's not a move that most teams would do, and to be perfectly honest, it's a rather nonsensical move, but they do it anyway, so it's hard to predict what Raven will come out with the first pick.
Yeah, that's right. Oftentimes, they seem to be picking on fly also. They do study other. It seems to be they're studying more about their opponent compared to season number 1. But oftentimes, as Wolf always mentions also, when they take this much time for their first pick, it worries me too.
Yeah, I mean, they have to expect that they're going to ban Genji, right? So they take Greymane, which is one of Raven's most often played heroes. And something I wanted to bring up about Greymane in general was that Greymane, right now, no one seems to be entirely sure of what Greymane's place in the metagame is, because if you look at the board across the two best regions, I would say, in Korea and Europe, then Greymane has a relatively low win rate. He's setting at 41%. But the thing is, Tempest and Fnatic are doing phenomenally well with Greymane, while all the other teams are losing with it or don't pick it at all. And if we take out Fnatic and Tempest's wins and losses away from the total statistic, Greymane has a 30% win rate, which is pretty trash, but he's getting picked so often. So it's going to be very interesting to see what exactly Greymane's place in the metagame is, and maybe Raven will give us more glimpses into that today.
And here comes Illidan and Auriel pair up right now. Miracle, they're not giving up on the support fight. They want to take Auriel from the beginning for both games from the beginning. As you mentioned about Greymane, I think Greymane is a very, very balanced DPS, can bring in burst damage when he has a chance, or also take Cursed Bullet to take out chunks of HP, max HP from all the tanks front lines, which will actually give him chance to do the burst damage. But that's very situational in this meta, I feel like. And if he's not given that situational, Genji or other even mages like Li Ming, I think they can do a lot better in terms of all the burst damage. And compare that to Greymane. I think Greymane falls a little behind, but we are talking in BOE, so of course racing for that Immortal will also help for Greymane. So there's a Uther and a Nubarak picked up this time. I think this is going a little bit better towards Raven right now.
Yeah, and looking at what the teams have picked up so far, I like the Uther pickup from Raven, because looking at which heroes pair up best with Greymane, Uther was always on the top of the list. Greymane tends to have a higher win rate when he's paired with Uther, which some may think is obvious because Uther has a high win rate of itself, but I looked up all the statistics and it clearly seems to show that Greymane does do specifically better when paired with Uther, so that's pretty decent. Anubarak is always a solid pick, and again, when we move back to talking about MVP Miracle, I think they're picking Auriel in the first rotation shows gives some light into what they think of the patch right now. They think that Ario is super strong and they deserve, like, it deserves to be taken no matter what as soon as possible. So I can respect that. And Illidan. Dami is going to be playing Illidan, and Dami has picked Illidan twice, won with it both times, and
Yes.
Illidan has been banned against him 7 times.
Yes,
So
Mighty banned Illidan 5 times in 5 sets against MVP Miracle. So that's how strong Dami's Illidan is, and he has his hands on Illidan right now. With Ario, they can even bring in Vala just for the Q, for the racing potential. And if you let Dami on Illidan, that's the power. And oftentimes, Greymane is paired up with Tastar. Since Mid-Season Brawl, we saw this pair up lots of times. It also helps Greymane to dive in with the shield, extra shield. He can also come back from the fight, not just sacrifice himself with all the damage. So Tastar ban is of course a smart one. Actually, Rehgar ban from Raven is very, very... I gotta say, it's very funny.
Yeah, well, it's a show of respect, right? They faced Ario Rehgar in the first set, and they had no good way of dealing with it, and they certainly aren't going to think of some sudden new radical way to address it in the 2 minutes before the first game and second game. So I think the Rehgar ban is somewhat justified, and pretty expectable picks from MVP Miracle coming out in Tiro and Cassia. We have to remember that Raven banned Cassia when Ario was taken in the first rotation. They banned Cassia in the second rotation because it's such a good counter to auto attack heroes. It was Vala in the first game, it's Greymane right now.
That's right.
And Cassia pairs well with Ario too, so very decent pickup. Tyrael, as always, goes very well with Illidan. And Raven are going to want... I think Raven might be looking into employing double support of their own.
I think they now, with that Illidan, of course, maybe it's the first time we'll see Lily coming out in Korea. That did happen a lot back in Europe, phase number 1 especially.
I can see the logic behind Lily. I could also see the logic behind Karazim as well, because Raven was one of the teams that brought out the double support Karazim right at the beginning of phase 1, if we remember. It was Karazim and Tyrande, but well, not bad picks. Li Ming is very solid on Battlefield of Eternity in general, solid pick against Ario as well. And Arthas, it's pretty much a must pick against Illidan, right?
Very good pick, a must pick against Illidan when dives in. That Frozen Tempest will do tons of damage, also slow him from escaping. And Li Ming, of course, is a very good pick. And Raven, it's a solid pick, balanced pick. It's somewhat countered from Miracle, but it seems like they're missing the theme in their draft right now. When Miracle actually bring in all the power tools, and they're using it to perfect their team comp.
Yeah, so basically Raven has everything they want in a team comp, but that doesn't necessarily synergize. I think it could, but I'm also not too sure. And double support
Here
again.
we go.
Yeah, MVP Miracle coming in with the cheap, really strong strats from Europe. This is a smart way to play the game. I mean, I'm not knocking them off. This is the right way to do it.
Yep, and MVP Miracle bringing the double supports once more. Can they bring it to 2-0 and look for the series over? Or is it going to be Raven actually countering with Li Ming, Greymane, lots of burst damage. Of course, it's BOE and Arthas as the counter to Illidan. Can they make a comeback and bring the series 2-1-1? Let's go into Battlefield of Eternity. In blue, MVP Miracle, Judy on Tyrael, Dami on Illidan, Jaehyun on Lucio, C moving on Cassia, and Sniper on Ario.
And on the red side of Raven, we see Darvish on Greymane, Hamelin on Arthas, NMX on Li Ming, De Jong on Anubarak, and Chom on Uther. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this because the draft was just wrapping up, but I really like the Lucio pick simply because a lot of the heroes on Raven's side depends on, you know, missiles and the skill shots, and having the speed boost from Lucio is so effective against heroes such as Li Ming and Arthas' Root and Nubarak too. So definitely a good choice for the double support pick here, although Lucio may not be as prevalent in other regions when utilizing double support.
You know, of course, Lucio was also buffed with the healing boost this patch, so I think there's another reason to have Lucio. When you're going in the dive, Jian takes a ton of damage by himself. That was scary, but he will help with the dive when they go in for the dive, and also if they go in all the way with the dive, Sniper will be alone in the back line, which with the speed boost will help him dodge all the skill shots too. So I think that was a very smart double supports pick from Miracle indeed.
Yeah, definitely commendable. And meanwhile, in the top lane, Arthas is having some sort of free reign because obviously Illidan, there isn't much you can do against an Arthas, but it's Dami's Illidan, so maybe things will be different.
We're gonna see this over and over again. The charge was in from Raven's side, and they back off because they're all staying in together on that AoE healing. The sustain is just unheard of, and MVP Miracle seems like that's gonna be the beginning and maybe the end of the story for game number 2. I'm really worried because the double support for Miracle has been working a lot. So much save because oftentimes they make lots of mistakes, and as you mentioned, double support seems to be filling in those holes, which exactly what Miracle needs.
Yeah, and I can't really respect Raven for deciding to suddenly exchange damage like that in the laning phase, because obviously one side has a double support, the other side has Uther. What do you expect? Unless you get a kill, which you probably won't, you're going to end up having to all go home, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep, and oftentimes we're going to see the racing with the Greymane alone, and they actually caught a lot when Illidan and Arthas was still fighting on top lane, but now it will be a full 5v5 fight with Illidan joining from the side.
We saw Raven with the temporary, really slight experience advantage because Arthas was hard pushing in the lane and Dami had to stay behind the walls to catch up on the slowly coming wave. But now we see Dami on the enemy Immortal chipping away at its health all by himself, and they're attempting to hold it 4v5, and this is possible simply because they have double support.
There's a dive in onto Judy, but Judy seems to be, he wants to sacrifice himself actually, and that's a very good trade towards Miracle. Raven will have lack of damage. The only damage they will likely to have is the burst damage and the pokes coming out from NMX.
Yep, and MVP Miracle will have to do a hurtful, difficult job of trying to block all of NMX's projectiles, but it's not going to work. They aren't too healthy enough, and the first Immortal goes to the side of Raven.
Yeah, actually Raven did tons of damage, even sacrificing Greymane in the middle, because Li Ming has been poking constantly from the side. And Nubarak did dive in, and he actually lived. Young did not die this time from diving in. I think this is a very good showing for Raven that they can actually get a map of a Miracle today too. But Cassia was often used also, especially with the talent at 7, to counter Greymane lots of time with the extra blind that comes in.
And we see the first Immortal not doing much at all. As can be expected, most of the shield was chipped off anyway, and it is rare that unless you have some kind of Sylvanas composition or the opposition doesn't really have a good way to deal with the Immortal, the first Immortal never really does much anyway.
But with that, with the wall down, Raven will have the EXP lead for a while, but they're looking to invade this camp right now, and it is a 4v. Now it's a 4v4 with Nubarak joining from back home Parthing.
And they are probably going to take this, if I'm not mistaken, but they decide to contest it.
There's a big blind onto multiple targets, but NMX doing tons of damage. Judy doing great body blocks from the side.
I don't think Raven want to pick these kinds of fights until NMX gets access to the level 7 talent that she has. Because when you're clumped up, it's perfect for Ario and Lucio. Both of their healing is AoE, and you don't really want to tackle that head-on unless you have AoE damage of your own.
And Greymane is holding in on that level 7. Let's see if it becomes The stacking one. No,
Yeah,
not
it's
this
probably
time.
not, yeah.
Yeah, with the lack of sustain, of course, it was less likely too. And Uther would nerf onto 7 with the Ancient Kings. Now we'll go towards a cleanse. And when there's not too much of CC onto the other side, okay.
I mean, I can see why they took it, because obviously Illidan, like, nowadays the trend is to take the hunt, so you can expect that will come out.
That's right.
And if Miracle is feeling a bit spicy, and especially if Raven decides not to take cleanse, then the dive potential with both Judgment and the hunt is going to be massive, and you're going to be forced to waste a Divine Shield on that alone. So understandable decision from Chong.
Very nice. This is the exact analysis I've been looking for. I've been looking from you, Rally. You're doing a great job. And of course, Miracle with the sustain, they are having a much better time. And just sending Illidan to the other side. Liming's poke would be the only problem, but they have to sustain. Look at the hope bar for Sniper. He's holding into the max.
Yep. And Dami moves on to the top lane for a second to clear out the Shaman. Good decision, but now they're going to fall behind on the Immortal.
Yep, and Raven actually taking so much damage onto Immortal, which mostly from the pokes of Darvish and also NMX poking from the side right now. But if you look at the health bar, the Miracle is looking towards to go in on anytime soon.
If we look at what MVP Miracle is doing here, they're probably just waiting to hit 10 so that Illidan has access to a global, which will put them ahead on map mobility and movement. And before that, I think they're content with giving away some Immortals and just stalling enough time for Illidan to hit that level 10 mark.
They're just waiting right now to look for that perfect angle to go in after 10. Arthas has been missing lots of the roots actually.
Partly due to Lucio, as we talked about, having that speed boost in intermittent bursts helps a lot when trying to dodge those Arthas roots.
There's a cleanse on to Hamlin. He could have lived with the cleanse. The Young might think he has a dive back in about a second now.
Dami in the thick of battle enjoying himself.
Lucio actually gets caught from Darvish coming in from the side doing tons of damage, but they still have Sniper as a support. So they still do have to sustain. There's a dive onto Sniper. Multiple CCs actually going down. And here's a deal. But Dami steps in from the other side. He's doing tons of damage, and Chom even has to back off. The boss doing more damage onto Dami. He is chain stunned. Boss MVP, and Hamlin's onto the chase right now.
Yeah, the Immortal did a huge job there, and Raven almost hits level 10. This is definitely going to be an Immortal for them. And MVP Miracle has no good ways to soak a lot of experience right now, so if Raven decide to burst down the Immortal, then they could definitely get a Ford off the Immortal, but they decide to back off. I'm not sure if I agree with this decision, because it gives so much time for MVP Miracle to catch up on experience before the Immortals head into the lane.
Maybe they just wanted to go back Hearthome and go with full HP and mana just before, because they know they have the upper hand for a while before Miracle hits 10. Then because they knew that they would get Immortal anyhow. So, but of course, giving more time to Miracle will actually lose both camps, it seems like right now.
Yeah, so basically, this was super greedy from MVP to decide to take both camps.
And there's Ariel already gone. Seems like it will be triple kill coming out from this side when they already have the Immortal for themselves too. Losing both of the support and Cassia.
Oh,
what a well done play by Raven to smell this happening.
Well done by Raven, and I guess it can be understandable from MVP since Raven were giving MVP so much time. But you really have to think that was greedy, because you knew that the Immortal was going to head down. You knew that Raven was going to follow the Immortal down, and you don't have too great of a DPS against siege camps. So that was definitely a bit greedy from MVP. And now at definitely the outer wall of the bottom keep is going to fall.
I gotta say MVP Miracle looked down on Raven for a moment. I think they were... The cost was really high, of course. Cassie getting rooted again. There's the stun with the storm.
Fantastic Divine Storm.
Age is actually defending all that. The sustain is real, and NMX actually has to go all the way back. Judy with the sanctification now will help his teammates to actually chase all the entire members of Raven, but here comes Dami with the Illidan. Chom and Hamlin is looking for their life on the other side.
The Divine Storm was really solid, but so was the Ball Lightning. I think it bounced to its max limit against all of Raven, and it chipped off so much of their health. And the Sanctification was used pretty decently as well. The fact that Raven failed to get any resets onto its members after the Divine Storm hurt them so much.
Yeah, they feel like they needed a little bit more damage, a little bit more burst time. Maybe Animax and both Greymane stepping in at the same time. Maybe some of the skills were on cooldown when Divine Storm was hit. So the teamwork was not entirely perfect there, right, when they were stepping in. But we saw some hints. I think they have a very good chance of leading this game into possibly to a win. And even with that, Divine Storm was not really expected, but with that now, they have to make it work.
Yep, and Nubrok is probably not going to fall. The Cleanse doing some work there, so finally some value coming out of that level 7 talent. But as you said, Raven are in a pretty decent position. They are definitely on the up. They are a keep ahead. They took the Shaman Camp first, and they are in a position to move on to MVP Miracle's Shaman Camp to look for a team fight.
Yes, this is exactly what they want to do. When they're a talent lead up, DeYoung dives in, finds no target, but Cassia seems to be in some of the CCs, but the sustain comes in from Ario. There's the Crystal Aegis. Now actually blown up exactly at the same time.
The resets, it's coming out, and another fantastic Divine Storm coming out from Chom. You have to give the props. Like, one good Divine Storm is luck. 2 of them in a row is skill.
And not just that Chom was in the perfect positioning, actually. Darvish going all the way in. Taking the fountain says, you'll have less sustain later. But Dami actually didn't get to use too much hunt because they were all together when they're invading together too, and he had to clear all the way because they were behind. I don't think they were expecting to be behind at this point. But because of that, he's really lacking in the use of the hunt. Maybe with the Metamorphosis, he could have joined with the team and not lose as much as the members right now.
Definitely. MVP Miracle's plans are not working as intended, and part of that is due to some of their bad decisions regarding teamfights and the great Divine Storms coming out from Chom. But another part of that, I think, is because MVP Miracle doesn't really have a good way to burst apart the Cocoon right now. And you see the Cocoon doing a huge amount of work. And they're often forced to use Crystal Aegis to deny a burst death, right? So, in essence, when that happens, you have one person in the Cocoon, another person stuck in the Aegis, and with no way to burst open the Cocoon, they're fighting a 3v5 for so many seconds.
Yeah, that's also helping Chom to actually step all the way in to land on the perfect Divine Storm. I think with that, Raven is making this come true. I think the Crystal, the Aegis has been a little bit slow after it has been going in after all the burst damage onto Cassia like this, rooted and stunned like that. Crazy Movement gets the heal, but again, it comes a little bit late and he's blown up again. Sound Barrier comes out a second late, and it seems like Raven is onto the chase with all the resets coming out from NMX. He's looking to get more target sanctification used, that they will get one target onto Greymane, but seems like Raven has already won the team fight.
Great presence of mind from Dami to get that kill onto Darvish and delay the Immortal significantly, but as you said, these Crystal Aegises aren't working as intended. He should have used it much more earlier. It doesn't really make sense to freeze your Cassia after she's down to 30% health. So a lot of problems and execution coming out from the side of MVP Miracle, and Raven makes the decision to slowly whittle down the Immortal again, but this time it makes absolute sense because MVP Miracle are so far away from level 16 while Raven are.
I think it's hurting. Going back to the draft, Miracle is the one who banned Genji from the beginning. But without the Illidan, I think if they had Genji with the Dragon Blade, when they're all staying in together, I think it would have worked perfectly for themselves, actually. But here comes another team fight. Actually, DeYoung dives in from the side. Dami's aggroing all three. There's a big blind onto multiple targets. This is the one that Miracle has been looking for. Burst damage, missing. Divine Storm used, but no follow-up. Not too much damage going in at the both targets. And sustain-wise, Miracle has to win the team fight.
Ball Lightning doing massive work once again, and like you said, the Divine Storm can get only so much value when all of the AoE damage skills are chained alongside right after the Divine Storm, but that's not what happened. Just like in the first team fight when Chom got a perfect Divine Storm off, all of Li Ming's skills were on cooldown, and Greymane, it's not like he went for a massive cocktail build, so it's not like he has massive AoE damage either, so another good Divine Storm wasted. To be fair, their team fight positioning wasn't so great this time, but a hunt lands onto Li Ming.
And Dami's onto the chase. There's a heal, and it seems like Dami's the one actually who got the turret shot and got taken off.
So greedy, and the sound barrier was wasted as well. This is going to be a series of resets.
And resets coming in. There's fighting a talent down here. There's still 15. Miracle was very greedy. Dami was looking for that kill, and Jaehyun seems to be wall riding. Seems to be he maybe the only one. Actually, Tyrael hearted back home with all that chase.
Yeah.
Maybe Ariel can also live. They don't even care. They are going. It seems like they want to go for the core. No, they can't.
What are they exactly?
Their shot call shot calling is very messy right now.
Yeah,
I think
two
that's
of
the
them
word
headed
that I
straight
will
to the
use.
core. Two of them headed to the mortal, then suddenly turned around. Not the kind of shot calling you want to see at the top level, but nevertheless, that was a pretty good team fight. And Dami was so arrogant there in diving headfirst before the Li Ming. None of his two supports were next to him. He had zero support.
That shot calling seemed like my Hero League chat. We can core. No, we can't. Let's just go for safe and tomorrow. Okay, let's back off.
I'm guilty too.
At least they went for one direction together.
Yeah.
I like that part. Okay.
Always the bastion of positivity, G.
Oh man. That's Raven right now, and but because of that, Miracle got their chance to come back with the 16 talent, with still a level ahead for Raven right now. But after that team fight, if they have to sustain as they knew it,
yeah,
they can bring the team fight, and Immortal may actually take the keep down, so they have to really start poking from now on.
Yeah, looking back at the last team fight, to be honest, if NMX had been a little bit more careful with his last batch of skill shots, then Lucio would have fallen as well, and that would have been a straight core because they were looking at an open core with only 2 members alive, but MVP Miracle doing a decent job of defending this Immortal.
There's a dive onto multiple targets. The blind is real, and Dami looking for one single target. Arthur seems to be target. Focus tank is the way. Let's go. Start sanctification and both sound barrier used at the same time. Darvish doesn't even care about this. He just wants the Immortal push.
Darvish makes the decision to move back into the team fight instead of poking away at the core, but then he changes his mind again.
And he's going for the core. Seems like he wants to go for the core when his entire team is falling. They just want to buy time. And MX comes in along with the Immortal, 50%, and Immortal will go down very soon, actually. Darvish doing what he can. Core is going down 21, 13%, 5%!
No!
Chom, this is not enough!
Oh, Uther wishes he was Tyrael. But unfortunately, he doesn't explode after dying, so...
That was a close call, actually. I thought it was going to be very off, but that was very close, especially with NMX stepping in. But they could not get a single kill, that's the thing.
Darvish must be kicking himself right now. He had the right idea to just ignore the team fight and go for the core alongside the Immortal, but then he decided to turn around, but then he decided to turn back. What's going on?
It's as if he's saying, guys, come over, let's core. I don't even care about the team fight. I told you we could go core. That's what he's saying right now.
Oh, this is so disheartening. Raven on the brink of victory. It was so close. And all they had to do was to be a little more clear and efficient in their shot calling.
Of course, that was lots of clown fiesta happening with the shot calling, and I think if they brush up their shot call, if they all listen to one dedicated shot caller, I think they could have got the game off already off of Miracle.
Definitely,
not just from the core call, from the team fight before. I think they were lacking all the decisions too. I think they really needed a dedicated, straight shot caller and listen to what the person is saying.
Definitely. This game, I mean, this match in general, Raven have been coming up with very decent grasp, very decent execution, a lot of fantastic individual plays, as shown by Chom in this game with his massive Divine Storms. But that finish you need to go all the way. You need to go 100% instead of 95 like they did with the core. And another team fight breaking out.
And of course, there's always a chance of backdoor, so Tyrael is stepping behind, making sure the team is safe. And spots all 5 now round and joins the team fight. It's still 5%, backdoor can happen anytime.
Raven is definitely not interested in committing to a full team fight because both lanes are pushing in, and all they have to do is to stall until 20.
That's exactly what they're doing. Their catapults are pushing, and Miracle knowing that they have to back off right now.
And
there's a dive
Raven
onto Crazy
doesn't want
Movement,
to
actually.
let them do that.
There's a Sanctification, very well placed, actually. In terms of Miracle, there's a Divine Storm. Actually losing Cassia already. Deep seems to be GG going for MVP Miracle, unless Dami pulls up some amazing moves, but losing Lucia would lack in sustain, and here's already, seems to be the core is already going down with the solo catapults.
The catapults, if they had gone directly onto the core, then it would have been game over right there, but it still doesn't matter because MVP Miracle lost the team fight. All of Raven will move on to the core, and this is a huge upset from Raven. This is immensely pleasuring to see.
This is crazy, but Raven gets their mat off of MVP Miracle and BOE. It happened. It's the power of the pink keyboard from Darvish. That's what I wanted to see. See, Young is saying, if we made that core call, if you're more decisive, we could have won the game 4 minutes earlier than we did right now.
That's true, but they have to be feeling really good about themselves. And did you see Darvish's face? That's the face of a man vindicated. He feels spicy. He got back at his old teammates who sort of like, I'm pretty sure they weren't toxic, but he knew that he wasn't the greatest support. They knew that he wasn't the greatest support, but now he's on Greymane, making the right calls and taking over his own teammates with a different position, different picks.
That's right, Rally also being very bold today with all his calls onto lots of players of Korea. And this could be Enion series right now with 1-1 tied. And shortly we're going to have a commercial break, but with that Raven, I think they can brush up a little bit, as I said before. Brush up a little bit more with shot calling. I think they have the chance to go in with the Anubarak. I think Anubarak on DeYoung missed sometimes, but those dives onto Cassia hit every single time almost. But before, we are going to take a short commercial break, and it could be anyone's game, maybe Raven's first series win. When we come back, we'll have game number 3.